Hello folks, we're looking at some cheap used EVs in this one. As we know, EV depreciation is a thing. We're going to look at the best cars you can get at the moment for under 15 grand. And there's one deal in here that is mind-blowing really. I've never seen the likes before, but there are a few of them around. So we'll get to that momentarily. Let's start off though with one of the most popular EVs in the UK, in the world actually. It's the Tesla Model 3. It's a 2019 model, standard range plus, 241 brake horsepower. This one's got 62,500 miles on it. 2019, 14,800 quid. Looks like a bit of a deal. Now I'm only looking at cars with relatively low mileage or sort of average mileage, and I'm only looking at cars that have what appears to be a clear history, but more on that coming. So there'll be no official Cat S's, Cat N's, Cat C's, Cat D's in this video. If you wanted to look at that, you could save yourself a couple of £1,000 on all of these. Those wheels look a tiny bit frilly, but otherwise seems fine. Some of those EV based wheel trims that I've put on my Model Y would actually cover those wheels up anyway, because the aftermarket ones cover the lip of the wheel, where the Tesla wheel trims don't. They actually sit just inside, so you can still curb the alloy that sits underneath that wheel trim. There have obviously been a couple of facelifts of the car since this one came out. The first one being very mild. You can tell that because it's got black door handles and black surround rather than the chrome. But this is still a very, very good car. There are examples sitting on Auto Trader right now with getting on for 200,000 miles on them. So don't believe all the BS that you hear from people like, oh, they get to 80,000 miles and you have to put them in the bin. It's utter rot. It's the kind of stuff you read in the Daily Mail. 14,800 quid looks good money for that kind of car. You're getting a lot for that sort of cash. Citroen EC4, check this one out. 2021. £11,350. It's got 32,000 miles on it, 217 miles of range. They're a wee bit quirky, but there's something to be said about that sometimes. Nice practical car. Infotainment system's not too bad in them. It's got Michelin's on, which is nice to see. And yeah, there's the infotainment system. It's not the most responsive, most sort of bells and whistles, anything like that, but it's really functional, works well. Driver information display's decent, really comfortable. Citroens always seem to ride quite well, and this one's no exception. Unsurprisingly, the 0-62 is no match for the Tesla. Tesla's 5 point something, 5.3, 5.6 seconds. This one's 9 seconds, and this one's got 315 litres of boot space because that roofline does slope down a bit. But it's a nice car. It's just a high riding hatchback really, but ticks a lot of boxes. 11,350 quid for a 2021 car is not too shabby. And now this is the car I really want. Honestly, if I could get a second electric car at the moment, if I could get any second car at the moment, this would be right at the top of my list or near it, because I just love it. It's the Icon edition of the Fiat 500e and the 42 kilowatt hour. I'd strongly suggest you go for the 42 kilowatt hour because the WLTP range figures on this I've found in the past are hopeful at best. I think officially, yeah, 199 miles. In the real world, it's about 130, 140. I had one for a month, so I can say that with confidence and used it in all kinds of different ways. And I think 130, 140 is much more realistic. But 10 grand. This was a car that was about 30 grand brand new. 27,740 miles. Only one owner. There's not much not to like about that. If you haven't driven one, you just must. I think I've said in the past, but the day this was delivered onto my drive, I thought, oh God, what's this? I don't want to be driving this. And the day it left, I had a bit of a tear in my eye because I loved it. It's brilliant. And it really rekindled my love for small cars. 0-62 in 9 seconds, but it feels so fast. I think the 0-30 is really fast. And obviously in a car like this, you're doing 0-30 more often than you're doing 0-60, if you see what I mean. But that looks great value for me at 10 grand. It's got a tiny boot. The back seats are cramped, but there's plenty of room in the front because you've got no transmission tunnel or anything. And it's just a lovely, fun thing to drive. Next is the Mini. I'd take that Fiat over this Mini, by the way. 11,000 quid is the Mini. It's a 2020 model, 65,000 miles on the clock, so a bit more mileage, 145 mile range, So realistically, you're maybe getting 100, 110 out of that, I would imagine. But funky little car, massively popular, aren't they, Minis? So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be drawn to that. I think at 11,000 quid, it's not too bad. It's depreciated a lot. 0-62 in that one, by the way, is 7.3 seconds, so a little bit livelier. As I said, no Cat S's or Cat N's in here, but they're only the ones we know about. As you see, you go on Auto Trader, you go on eBay, any of those platforms, and they'll say, not an insurance write-off. It hasn't been scrapped, anything like that. But what it won't show you is what 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 will. For £3, you get the basic check that will look for this exact thing I'm about to tell you about, or 10 quid gives you the full report. This is a sample of a full report. So what we see is insurance write-off. They're all the ones that go on the official database. So the insurance companies actually don't have to record on the official MyAfter database if things been a write-off or not. It's voluntary. And a lot of those free checks that you get on a lot of websites only look at the official database. They're not looking anywhere else. What 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 do is they go through all the records of salvage auctions and see if any of these cars have appeared at salvage auctions. So this car here, BMW 135 M Sport, I'd really like one of those second car as well actually, but I digress. This car here could be sat at the main dealer with absolute top retail price on it, and someone might be happy to pay it because it's got a completely clear record with a standard HPI check, for example. However, they then discover it used to look like this. So if there are pictures available, they'll be on here. If it's been through a salvage auction in recent years, there should be a record of that on here. It's very extensive. It's very good. This is a huge loophole that many people are still unaware of, despite me and several other people making lots of videos about it. You'll see lots of YouTubers all endorsing another car history site. They have approached me as well before, but I endorse this one because I think it's the best value. It costs a tenner as opposed to 20-25 quid, and I think it's every bit as good as some of those others out there. You get mileage history, everything else. My link is in the video description. Please use that link. It helps support the channel. Next car we're looking at is a 2020 VW ID3. Wow, these cars have depreciated a lot. This would have been 35 grand, 37 grand from memory, somewhere in that region when it was new. 2020 car with 54,000 miles on it, one owner, 13 grand. Look at that, 265 miles of range. Yes, the infotainment system's a little bit poo. Yes, some of the controls are not as good as they could be. They're slidey things rather than knobs and dials. But it's a great car for 13 grand. It's just not a great car for 37 grand, or wasn't when it came out. The revised version of it's actually dealt with one or two of the issues of the original one. But they're all minor gripes, really. There's nothing that's going to really put you off one at this kind of price, believe me. 0-62, 7.3 seconds, 265 miles of range, 13 grand. 2020 Hyundai Kona Premium Auto. This one is the larger battery pack. There are a couple available. You can get the one with the smaller battery pack for about 10 grand. Get 279 miles of range, a 0-62 time of 7.9 seconds, and a really good, really competent, easy to live with, practical family car. There's nothing wrong with a Kona. They are not the most exciting vehicles on earth, but they do everything really, really well and don't really have a chink in the armour. 12,699 quid for a 2020 model with 61,000 miles. These were famously 36 grand new, and you can actually get one for about 20 now if you get a pre-reg. 49,000 miles on the clock, 2020 model, 10 grand gets you one of those. 209 miles of range, by the way. If you're happy to go for something a little bit older, BMW i3 2017 model, 62 grand. They've held their value quite a lot better than some of the newer cars. They're very quirky, very cool, very different. Mileage on that one is 62,000 miles, 195 miles of range, 8,900 quid. Say at me, this is an interesting one because it's basically the VW Up and the Skoda Citigo, but the Say at me seems to be available for a lot less than either of those two, but they're essentially the same car. This one's got 25,000 miles on it, 160 miles of range, 2020 model, 8,460 quid. Now, I've looked at its brothers and sisters this morning, and they're more like 11,000 quid plus. So it looks like a bit of value. There are a couple of these available right now, and this one is obviously a little bit frilly, but it's not the end of the world, is it? It's like 200 quid fixes that. You've got proper receipts rather than just stamps, which is always great to see when you're buying a used car. And that's great. If you want a little commuter car, something to go to the shops with, a second car for your household. I mean, for some people could even have that as their main car, but do you want a second car for a lot of households, or a first car for a young driver and you want to go electric, this is a really good way to go. 8,500 quid for a 2020 model with 25,000 miles on the clock. Renault Zoe, 5.5 grand you can get one of these for. This is a battery lease, so you have to pay a little bit of money for it every year. But this is a 2018 model with 61,000 on the clock for 5.5 grand. And the Zoe is now getting to the point where you can get one for almost any budget. This one is capable of the quicker charging as well. Some of the early ones, can only charge reasonably slowly. 61,000 miles on the clock, 186 miles of range, 5.5 grand. Now, do you want to see the one that might blow your trousers off? Check this out. 2022 Nissan Leaf with 12 miles on the clock. So they've got a few of these at the moment. They're pre-reg vehicles from 2022. So the garage bought them in and registered them in 2022 and they haven't sold them. It's 13.5 grand for essentially a brand new car. I mean, it's not, because it's been registered for 2 years. So you're going to have to get it MOT'd next year. But it's got 12 miles on the clock. 12 miles. That's delivery mileage. 168 miles of range. A brand new Nissan Leaf. 110 kilowatt, 39 kilowatt hour Accenter. And there'll be people saying, well, they can't sell them because they're rubbish, blah, blah, blah. They're not rubbish. They're just a little bit outdated now. If you're looking to spend 30 grand on an electric car, there are much better options now. The Leaf's been around for a long, long time. And lots of people got into EVs via the Leaf because it was one of the first ones that was sort of mass produced. And they've served people extremely well. There are still some of the original ones going around. There are some where they've had battery issues and had the battery packs refurbished relatively cheaply. So the Leaf is a bit of a pioneering car. Technology's moved on a bit. So if you're going to buy a new EV right now, would you buy a Leaf? Probably not. Still not a bad shout to lease one because you sometimes get a really good leasing deal. But, you know, would you buy a brand new one? Probably not. Not for full retail. For 13.5 grand with 12 miles on it, you might be bonkers if you don't. I just want to show you the Porsche Taycan because it's the car that everyone goes on about in terms of depreciation. Largely thanks to one YouTuber that goes on about it quite a lot. And I think it's one of the most famous sort of high depreciating EVs. I don't think it's that bananas really. This one here would have been 95 grand when it's new, but it's 4 years old with 36,000 miles on it and it's 45. That's not amazingly different to a lot of £95,000 cars. It's just unusual for Porsche because Porsche usually hold their value a bit better than these have. But I don't think it's devastating, if I'm being completely honest. I still don't know why anyone would spend 95 grand on a brand new electric vehicle because technology is moving too quickly and we know that the market's sort of falsely saturated by company cars coming to the end of their deals and stuff. So if you did buy a new one for 100 grand or whatever, it might not have been your best ever financial decision. And I was telling people that years ago. Lease one, don't buy one because they're going to depreciate. But if you want to get one now, 4-year-old Porsche with 36,000 miles on it and one previous owner, 45 grand. That looks a lot better than 95, doesn't it? Hope you've enjoyed that one, folks. Just a bit of fun. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'm after that 50,000 subscriber number this year. That would be lovely. I'd love you to be one of them. Don't cost you anything either, which is always good. And don't forget to use 𝑉check if you are buying a used car because it's brilliant. The top check's only a tenner. The basic one's £3. And using that link helps to support the channel. Thanks again, folks. Catch you on the next one.